This is the Executive Profile, exclusively on CBT News. Today's episode has been sponsored by the Presidio Group.
Welcome into another edition of the Executive Profile on CBT News, where we sit down with the top minds driving the retail automotive industry forward. Today's show takes us to Savannah, Georgia, where we sat down with Jane Vaden Thatcher, president and dealer operator of Vaden Automotive Group. Jane leads one of the most respected dealership groups in the Southeast, representing major brands like Chevrolet, Cadillac, Nissan, Infiniti, Hyundai, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Jane was recently honored by Automotive News as one of the 100 leading women in the North American auto industry, a well-deserved recognition of her leadership, innovation, and lasting impact on the auto industry. Since stepping into the family business in the mid-90s, Jane has carved out her own path, opening her first store at just 34 years old while raising 3 young children and pursuing a culture she calls the Vaden Way, built on trust, honesty, and a deep commitment to community. In this edition of the Executive Profile, Jane shares her journey, lessons learned, and what's next for both Vaden Automotive and the industry at large. I think you're really going to enjoy this edition of the Executive Profile. Check it out. Jane Vaden Thatcher, thank you so much for allowing us to come into your dealership here and spend some time with you. We're so looking forward to today's discussion.
Well, thank you for coming. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, it's great. So let's start in the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your background. I know your dad was a dealer. You're the second generation dealer.
Yes.
Talk to us about your upbringing. Were you from Savannah?
We moved to Savannah when I was 2 years old, and my dad opened the dealership. He was the second Chevrolet point at the time in Savannah, and new store. And he was, when he started, the only employee, and it was here where you're sitting today.
Wow, that's something.
But the area was actually, it was rural.
Yeah.
It was a dairy farm.
Wow.
When he started.
Oh my gosh.
So he quite literally started from nothing.
Yeah.
And
what year are we talking about?
1968.
Wow, 1968. And here we are now in an incredible facility. I'm sure it's been built a couple of times now, right?
It has.
Yeah.
Yes, we've seen several iterations over the years. But and I started my automotive career at this location also.
Wow.
I was 13 years old and my father said, okay, time to go to work.
There you go. Washing cars or shuffling paper or whatever, right?
I spent the first part of my career actually as the switchboard operator.
There you go.
So I learned very quickly that you have to have a thick skin in this business, and then went through all the paces, all through high school, summers and holidays and all of those things.
That's fantastic. Was the car business something at the end of that period of time that you were working early on? Was that something that you aspired to be in?
Absolutely not. No.
Did it show you that this is one business I don't want to be in?
Well, my number one goal when I graduated from high school was to move somewhere where no one had ever heard the word Vaden.
Okay.
And my name was not on the back of every
Thousands
vehicle
of cars
running
in the
around
city.
in
Sure.
Savannah.
Sure.
So I went off to college at Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Got a very practical degree in English literature.
Okay. Sure.
Quickly decided that everybody said, oh, are you going to teach school? No, I don't want to do that. So I got a master's in journalism and public relations.
Okay.
And went to work for an agency in Atlanta for about 5 years.
Wow.
And my father was an incredible salesman.
He was a closer.
He was a closer. And when he had trouble closing me, he started working on my husband.
Okay. Yeah.
So we moved to Savannah. It actually was 30 years last June.
Okay, wow.
That we've been back. So that's when I started as an adult.
Right, gotcha. And when you came back, were you at a specific dealership, or talk to me about your career once you came back?
Well, when I came back, my father set us up, my husband and I, in true fashion, I guess, to see if we were really serious about wanting to be a part of the business.
Sure.
So we had I think it was a single wide trailer actually.
Okay.
next to the body shop.
Okay.
Way back in the back.
And what was the purpose of the trailer? What were you selling vehicles out of it, or what?
It was for the body shop.
That was for the body shop.
It was for the body shop.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's where I started.
Interesting. Wow.
Back there, sharing an office with my husband that was so small we couldn't open the door all the way. You had to sort of turn sideways to get in the door.
You might be the first dealer I've interviewed that actually started in the family business in the body shop. That's not a typical course,
not.
Right? Yeah.
Well, I quickly decided that I wanted to be in, I thought finance was probably a good place for me to learn.
When you say finance, do you mean back office or F&I?
No, I mean F&I.
F&I, okay.
I had no interest in the back office whatsoever. Still don't,
Sure,
as a matter of fact.
sure.
And then I became the first F&I director the company ever had.
Fantastic.
And we only had 3 dealerships back then, so it was much, much smaller.
Yeah, yeah. Did you like F&I?
I loved F&I except the paperwork part.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
It takes a mound to sell one car, which is
does.
incredible. I think it's more paperwork to sell a car than a home, right?
It definitely is.
Which is something that the industry is still struggling with, is it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's crazy. So you go on from F&I to become sales manager. Is that kind of the natural evolution?
Normally, but I was F&I director, and then I sort of fell into being I jumped from F&I director to general manager
of the store. Okay.
The store here, the Chevy store, and then began taking on, I added the Nissan store to my responsibility, so I was running both of those.
Oh, wow. Okay. And at this time, your husband is also in the company, working?
Yes.
Is he still in the body shop, by the way?
Yes.
He said, I like it, and I'm staying here.
I don't know that he said that. My father put my husband in charge of the complaint department.
Ah, gotcha.
So every complaint
went through him. Yeah, that took a load off your dad's back, right? He didn't have to deal with that any longer.
You know, that was one of his favorite parts
of the
business.
Wow.
The most fun he ever had, besides selling a car, which he did until he couldn't do the math anymore.
Sure.
Was turning an upset customer around.
Wow.
He was a genius at it.
That's something. That's something. At what point in time did you say, all right, this is my new career. I'm in love with retail automotive, and I want to grow the business?
Oh, from the minute I got here.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so your dad was right. Take you out of Atlanta at a PR firm because you grew up as a car girl.
I was passionate about it. Yes, I'm still passionate about it.
Sure. So how many, as we sit here today, how many stores are in the Vaden that make up Vaden Automotive Group?
13.
13 stores. Wow.
13 stores. 762 employees as of yesterday.
Wow, to be exact.
Yes.
That's fantastic. And when your dad stepped down, obviously you took over the whole deal, right?
I sort of worked my way through. I had a goal of having my own dealership without his involvement at a younger age than he did. Okay. So
gotcha.
I'm a little competitive.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Did he appreciate that in you, to say she's a lot like me, she wants her own store?
He did.
Yeah.
So the funny thing, I had been approaching and trying to convince Chevrolet that Savannah could, because my dad started as the second point, but pretty quickly after that, the other dealer closed up shop.
Okay, wow.
So
interesting.
We were the only point here, and I went to General Motors and convinced them finally that there was room for a second point.
Yeah.
And
that would be you. That's your opportunity.
And they were gracious enough to, after a couple of years of working on it, they agreed.
Right.
However, they gave us a very short time frame to accomplish that.
Okay.
And it just so happened that at that time I had a 1-year-old and I was pregnant with twins.
Oh my gosh. Wow, you got your hands full.
So.
And now you're going to open up a dealership.
The twins were born at the end of March.
Okay.
And June 1st, I launched my own Chevy store.
Wow.
and then as well as brought on the Hummer franchise. But I was still running this dealership and the Nissan store.
So Dad said, you can do this, but you still got to run my stores.
Correct.
Which was great training. Looking back, that was great training for you for one day to take over the whole deal. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And having the opportunity at that age, I was 34 at that point.
Okay.
And having the opportunity to start from zero and to fully staff, because it was an ad point that I was awarded.
Yeah.
So I was able to fully staff the dealership better than any MBA out there.
Yeah, right, no question. What's the strategy today with you and Vaden Automotive Group? And I know that you just were awarded a Genesis point. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Will we see more growth coming from Vaden in the future with more stores?
We will. We set out, I guess 4 years ago now, we mapped out a 5-year plan for growth.
Okay.
Where the goal at that point was to basically double the size of the company, go from a roughly $500 million company to $1 billion company in 5 years.
Okay.
Part of that was in anticipation of our son coming back and coming into the business as well.
Okay.
And we are, as I said, we're in year 4 of that. We added several rooftops, three rooftops since we started the 5-year plan.
Okay.
But we've also been super focused on expanding our capacity in our existing dealerships. So we've built additional service facilities in every dealership we have. And
that's fantastic.
Are continuing. We're committed to probably one more round of acquisitions to get us over that hurdle.
Right.
But we're close.
What do you look for when you're looking for another store? Are there any characteristics? Is it location? Does it have to be in this geographic area?
Yes.
It does. Okay. And then are there brands that you say these are the brands that we'd love to have, or?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
The location. So probably close to a decade ago now, I experimented with buying I bought a Toyota store that was about 6 hours away in the car.
Yeah.
And I found out real quick that I'm not wired that way.
You want to be able to touch
I want to be able to touch
them each day, right?
I want to be able to get there.
Sure.
And so
did you relinquish that store? Or
we sold that store.
You sold,
yes.
Okay. Do you get to visit the stores a lot, the different stores?
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I'm very close to a lot of my. We have a lot of long-term employees.
Yeah.
And
That's
very
fantastic.
close to them.
Yeah.
But as far as brands go, I mean, I would not have told you that we would be acquiring CDJR stores.
Yeah.
That wasn't on my list.
Right.
But last year we had a very unique opportunity. We were competing for an ad point for Hyundai.
Okay.
The Meta plant that they have invested
That's incredible.
billions upon billions of dollars.
It's like it's its own city.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually under roof. It's over 1 million square feet.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's. I've been lucky enough to
very
be able
impressive.
to go and tour it,
Yeah.
and it's fantastic.
What's your take on Stellantis right now? Obviously, it's had some troubles here in the last couple of years, and dealers are frustrated, to say the least. What's your perspective on the company and its future?
Well, I probably know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Because we're so new.
Sure.
But I will just tell you overall from my experience over the last 30 years. Once you've lived through a bankruptcy situation like General Motors went through, you're sort of bulletproof in terms of.
Doesn't scare you.
It can't.
Yeah.
I can't do what I need to do every day
Sure.
and be worried about what the manufacturer is going to do. I'm going to do my job, and we're going to figure out. Car people are very adaptable, and we're the eternal optimists.
Yeah, no question about it. Yeah.
We have to be.
That's right. The number of Stellantis dealers that I've spoken to have said, yes, I have some concerns, but my stores are making money.
And ours are too.
Yeah. So that's at the end of the day, it's working, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no question. And I think they've got to turn those great brands around. I mean, you've got Ram and you've got Jeep. And these are just legendary brands, right? They'll figure it out.
I mean, they're doing some of the right things to get things turned around.
Right.
Every manufacturer goes through cycles.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
Right.
And we just sort of ride it out, and we figure that's why we focus so much on fixed operations.
Sure.
Because that's something that we can control.
That's right.
Focus on used cars, focus on finance. There are just so many.
Body shop.
I'm out of the body shop business.
You're out of the body shop business?
Out of the body shop business.
So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about your Nissan stores along those same lines of troubled franchises. What's your take on Nissan and its future?
I think Nissan's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I think they're making some painful adjustments right now.
Right.
And fortunately for us, we've weathered the storm very well in our stores.
That's good.
We have 3 Nissan dealerships. Actually, the one in Savannah is consistently ranked in the top 50 in the country.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So
that's great. And they're making money.
And they're making money.
Yeah, that's great. And again, another great brand that once they figure it out, it'll be smooth sailing.
They will figure it. Well, I don't know about smooth. There is
Maybe I
no
jumped
smooth
ahead.
sailing in the car business.
No, there isn't.
Between COVID and tariffs and just all the things.
That's right. That's right. You mentioned you've got 762 employees working for the company now. How do you guys do a great job of not only finding great talent, but also holding on to that talent? How do you do that? What's the ingredients there for dealers that are watching? I mean, it's a lot of employees. How do you keep them all happy? And how do you build a culture that's going to bring them in and keep them in?
Some things we do, we call it the Vaden way.
Okay.
And it's really from the day my dad started. He was always very employee centric, and I was sort of raised in that environment. And he believed if you took care of your employees, they would take care of your customers.
Right. Great philosophy.
It is.
Yeah.
And I still believe that today, even though, he had at one point probably the most employees he ever had was 150, and now we're 762.
Sure.
But I still believe in the same philosophies. We treat our people right.
Yeah.
We do what we say we're going to do.
Yeah.
We offer a lot of training. We offer paths toward growth. And as owners, we get our hands dirty.
Yeah.
We are very involved. We're in the dealerships regularly.
That's great.
That's
great.
And a lot of the people that are top members of our team, I've basically raised them.
Wow.
And the just as an example, since we're sitting in Dan Vaden Chevrolet, the general manager here, who's actually a minority partner with me, and I have several of those.
Okay.
But he started at the age of 18.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Getting an accounting degree and working in
That
New Car
is
Get
pretty
Ready.
cool. Wow, that's fantastic. What a story.
And
that's got to be inspiring for your other 761 employees that hear that, right?
Well, we have a lot of that. On our
great.
senior team. I think the tenure is, for all of our directors, for variable, for fixed, it's over 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
And they're not old.
Oh my gosh,
they're a lot younger than I am.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So, and we're working now to build the next generation of leaders, some of whom are the children of not just mine, but children of managers that we have.
That's pretty cool.
And so we're building for Jack, for his team.
That's great.
That's unfortunately for him,
Jack is your son.
Jack is my son. Okay. Unfortunately for him, I won't retire. You don't do that in my family. You
was your dad working? Your dad passed, right? And he worked right up to the last day, I take it.
Well, he worked. He was 81 and had Alzheimer's. So
that's tough.
At that point,
sorry to hear that. That's
honestly, I would tell him that he was at work, and we would talk about it as if he was at work.
Sure.
And that was his happy place.
That's great. That's great.
His father sold cars for him, and quite
kidding.
literally
Wow.
had a heart attack and passed away on the showroom floor.
Oh my gosh.
So we don't retire.
You don't retire. Oh my God, it's in your blood. And one thing that I read about you and your organization is that I think like 35% of your employees are female, many holding managerial positions, right?
Yes, we have an unusual amount of
That's fantastic.
of female leaders.
Talk to me about, from your perspective, and I think you're uniquely qualified to answer this question. From your perspective, what does retail automotive need to do in order to attract and keep and promote females into the industry?
It's about opportunity more than anything. I mean, we do have, we're a lot more flexible in retail automotive than we used to be in terms of hours and the ability to juggle family and work. But a lot of the women that I have that are leaders in our organization have been with me over 20 years, for example, in unique roles. Yeah. And it's really, I've never looked at it as, people ask me a lot of the time, you're in a man's world, or what's it like? Yeah. To me, it's the only thing relevant about that to me is that when I go to dealer meetings, there are no lines for the ladies' room, which is not the case most places you go. Right. So to me, it absolutely makes no difference. Sure. It's always about what you can do. Sure. And
have you ever felt as a female in the automotive industry that you were treated any differently because you were female and it is such a male-dominated business?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Happens a lot. Yeah.
What happened? It actually happened with when I started here as an adult with a lot of the managers that my dad had had for years and years and years.
Sure. Now you're going to come marching in and telling them what to do, right?
Yeah, and they weren't super excited about that,
but, especially back then.
Right.
We've come a long way, but back then it was this young lady in the industry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just
you persevered.
I outworked them.
Right.
And I moved cars. I did whatever. Sure. To me, it's all about earning the respect, earning the right to be in the seat. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, that's what really females need to see, is they need to see that person at the top as a female and they say, okay, well then this makes sense, right?
And I love mentoring young women coming into the business.
Great. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about business. How is Vaden doing today? In light of all of the tariff talk and the economic situation and what have you, how's the business doing?
Really well.
Good.
No complaints. Yeah. I don't know what the future will hold in terms of the effects of the tariffs, and all of that may change.
Sure.
And we just stay focused on...
You get your blinders on.
We do.
The task at hand.
We focus on what we can control.
Right.
And do those things well. And usually you can weather... we've been through the recession and all the lending issues and all the things, and put your head down. And if I have to go, I remember way back in the Great Recession or whatever, I remember going around after hours and unscrewing some of the light bulbs so that
bring down the cost.
Seriously. Yeah. You just do what you got to do.
That's right.
And
that's right.
I hope we never get to that point again.
Sure.
There are cycles, and I think it always comes back around. But if there is a blip, I want to be in a position to be able to grow and acquire additional franchises when the prices aren't, way up here.
That's great.
So that's our goal, and that's what we work toward, and that has served us very well.
That's fantastic, and it's a great outlook. There's no question. As far as the president, putting these tariffs on vehicles that are coming in, and you sell some of them, and obviously with some of even the domestic brands, many of the parts are, brought in from China.
It's all about the part, not the brand.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not.
Are you supportive of his efforts? Do you think that it's a good thing in the long run, or where do you stand on that?
I'm gonna wait and see. I don't really.
You're not alone.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. All I know is whatever it is, we have to work our way through it and figure it out because we can't change it.
That's right. That's right. Let's talk a little bit about the EV situation. As you know, manufacturers went, full guns a few years ago and said, hey, we're converting all of our cars to EVs and that's going to be the future. And obviously the Biden administration came in pretty hard on that as well. And we saw the CARB states and what have you. Where does that stand today? Are people in Savannah coming in and asking for EVs, and are you selling them, or where does that stand?
Savannah's not a market that really has the infrastructure to support a lot of EV adoption, but I will say it has grown. Yeah. It's still a very niche market for us.
Okay.
I think the fear here of a lot of people are on the highway and a lot of people have trucks and it's a huge truck market.
Yeah, yeah.
And those folks aren't really thinking about EVs.
Yeah.
It seems to be much more prevalent in the large metropolitan areas.
Sure.
No, we do very well with Cadillac EVs.
Okay.
I think you'll see the market, at least in the short term, move a lot toward hybrid.
Okay.
And we do see we see a good amount of business from that end.
Okay.
But fortunately for us, manufacturers like Chevrolet and Nissan didn't go all in. They, committed to certainly having an EV offering, but continuing to support their ICE production. And fortunately, that turned out to be the wise move, at least at this point.
Sure. I've had this discussion with a number of dealers that said, we've got to get more salespeople into EVs, and then we can expect them to sell EVs, because if they don't experience the vehicle, and obviously there's no more demos in the industry, per se, but if until we win the hearts and minds of the salespeople on the front line, you're not going to get people, because if somebody comes in and says, I want to look at an EV, and that particular salesperson is not comfortable or knows the vehicle inside,
or they don't believe in it.
Or they don't believe in it, right? Then they kind of steer them towards a nice vehicle.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we got to get more behind the wheel. In terms of your management style and your leadership style, talk to me a little bit about that. Obviously, you got 762 employees to manage every day and work with. Is there a particular style that you kind of go towards?
Our style is very collaborative.
Okay.
And very transparent. We run a very open book operation for our employees so that the managers all can run their department or their dealership as a business.
Okay.
They can see all the expenses. They know what they have to overcome. I've always said, you might not like it, but you'll know what it is.
Yeah, yeah. So talk to me about Jack's opportunity. When will we see him taking over the operation? As you said, he'll never actually totally take it over because you're still here. But what's the game plan there for succession?
We are seeing him develop. He's 25 years old.
Okay.
But I suppose history repeats itself because when he was 15, I did wait, at least let him, have another summer or two. But
sure.
We put him in the parts warehouse. Okay. No air conditioning, loading parts trucks.
In Savannah, that's brutal.
That was a lot, yeah. And then he did a tour of duty as a porter.
Okay.
When the dealership was under construction, so there was no building.
Oh boy.
And no customer lounge, and so and then we transitioned him into sales.
Okay.
So all through high school and summers from college, he worked and he learned, and he's been back as an adult for, a year and a half.
Okay.
He got his brokerage license. He like me wanted to do his to prove he could do something on his own outside of the family business, which I felt like was important.
Did he always know he wanted to be ultimately, though, in the car business?
He did.
Yeah. He liked it.
He all through college, you know, every day we would talk, and he would ask me, you know, how many we sold today, or how so and so was
kind of your
doing.
manager. What do the grosses look like? You're a little off here, a little off there.
He's always held me accountable. Let's say.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What do you see as some of the challenges in retail automotive as a dealer principal over the number of stores that you've got and the employees? Is there anything that keeps you up at night that you say we got to keep an eye on this in the industry?
Oh my gosh!
For the few hours a night that you sleep,
that would be a pretty long list. You know, I think just sort of what's going to happen next. Because there's a lot of unknown out there, and trying to figure out how to navigate that. And always, I mean, I take very personally my responsibility to. I mean, I'm responsible to make sure that those 762 people can feed their families and have a good living, and that's I take that very very seriously, and that's my first priority. And we've always been able to deliver, but you know, margins shrink and expenses go up, and
that's right.
So we're constantly tweaking and adjusting and trying to be better stewards of, I mean, what a wonderful opportunity I was given. And I've done my best to not sit on that and grow it, and
you sure have,
and honor it.
Done a great job at that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's still a work in process. I'm not done.
Let's talk a little bit about the consumer experience. That's changed over, obviously, since COVID hit. We heard a lot about it. We actually reported a lot at CBT News about digital retailing. You know, there was a moment there after COVID hit that everybody said, oh, everybody's going to go online and buy cars.
We never said that.
Okay. There were a number of, people in the industry that thought that, though, right? And they said everybody's going to want to do the full experience online. No. The showrooms are a waste. They're not going to want to come in.
We never said any of that.
Right? So where do you think that stands today? Do you think that that the consumers are different today than they were prior to COVID? Are they? Do you have a?
Maybe a little. I think the consumers today, they want to do all their research online before they come into the dealership, but they're maybe 1%
really
want to do it all the way through online. Usually they'll start the process, they'll get the information they want, and then they'll either pick up the phone, email us, or show up. I mean, showroom traffic is still
strong.
That's still a great source of business. And, we have very vibrant business development centers, both for, we actually, our BDC for service is probably bigger than our sales BDC at this point.
And is that a centralized BDC for all the stores, or does every store have their own BDC?
For service, it's centralized.
Wow. That is quite an operation then.
It is. And it runs in our support center, we call it. If anybody ever says the word corporate referring to that building,
it's support.
It's support. That's what we exist to do. The sales BDCs are hybrid, so we have overflow and backup because inevitably somebody goes out for something or quits or has a baby or whatever. So we don't ever want to be caught short. So we have a team centrally, but we also have variable BDC people in each dealership.
How do you see AI playing a role as it relates to BDC? I've spoken to a number of dealers that said this is a game changer for us, the AI element as it relates to running a BDC, whether it be that it's a great tool for our staff to do a better job, or that it could actually maybe bring the head count down because of the technology that's available today to dealers through AI? What's your take on that?
We use it to support more as an after hours.
Okay.
You know, you can't be staffed 24/7.
Right.
And you don't want to miss anything because
Right.
leads are hard to come by.
Yeah.
So we use it there.
Okay.
I would say we're just sort of sticking our toes in at this point, exploring. I think there's a great chance it'll expand. Call me old school, but I just don't think technology replaces human interaction.
Yeah.
I think it complements it.
There's somebody on the other end
and
of the phone.
it supplements it.
Sure.
But I don't think people still want a personal connection, a personal experience. They want to feel important.
Sure.
They don't want to feel like
they got a robot
just, yeah.
on the phone. Yeah.
I mean, we're just not to that point yet.
Sure. So you're just kind of using it as a filler to where if somebody can't be there, then.
And we use it for things like helping us write job descriptions and, you know.
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. That's fantastic. So there's so many dealers, as you know, that are looking, at Volkswagen today and saying, hey, you're coming out with a whole new brand of car, Scout, and you gotta support the franchise system out there. You've got these different disruptors coming into the U.S. with their nameplates, and Tesla, I guess, started that to say we're going to sell directly to consumers. Is that a concern of yours, that the future might be made up of a number of ways to acquire a car without the consumer going through a franchise dealer?
Sure, it's a concern. Yeah. But Tesla's been in this market for a number of years, and they do fine, but they really haven't had much of an effect on us. And I believe that the franchise system and the franchise laws in various states, and fortunately the states that I'm in, they're very favorable to dealers.
Yeah, that's good.
I just don't think that you can take all of that away. I mean, I don't think that will happen. And you still have to have the parts and service operations. So to me, it doesn't make sense for a manufacturer to try and undo.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. I'm sure there will be more entries
it's
into the market.
It's interesting to see a company like Scout, which is really a division of Volkswagen, even though they say it's not, to really even want to go through all of that, to take on what a dealer does each day. I mean, you know firsthand, it's not easy.
Exactly,
right?
It's not easy.
No, especially as it relates to service.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as we know, it's one thing to sell a car, it's another to service.
They'll learn. They'll learn.
And maybe they'll even change their philosophy on that, right? Yeah, who knows? It's interesting. So, if your dad were here today and he heard 762 employees with so many locations, what would his take be on the incredible job you've done?
And I think he'd be very proud, not just of the job we've done, but the way we do it, and the way that
lived up to his legacy. Yeah,
the way we've honored our roots.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Jane Vaden Thatcher, thank you so much for allowing us to come in and spend some time with you. This has been fantastic. I know that our dealer audience will get a lot out of our visit with you. So thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching The Executive Profile, exclusively on CBT News. Today's episode has been sponsored by the Presidio Group.